Us humans are in such a rush to get to the next big thing. We have certain goals that we want to achieve, and then we don't feel fulfilled until we get there. But it's so important to understand that as we go, as we take those little steps forward, we're already winning. We're already achieving so much more. In this video, I'm going to explain how it is so important to measure how far you've already come and not to be in such a rush to the next thing. Give yourself credit for what you've already achieved. My name is Angela Cleary and I'm a feminine empowerment coach, and I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse. So the importance of measuring how far you've come. We always think that we need to be at a certain place, we need to be 10 steps ahead, we need to be at a certain point in our lives to have achieved big, or to congratulate ourselves, to have fulfilled what we wanted to fulfill. But we need to understand that rushing to get to where we want to be is not going to get us there quicker. It's probably going to slow us down. And I find this as well, and I'll explain a little bit about my experience as well. But when we forget to acknowledge how far we've actually come, all those little wins, which are actually big wins, give ourselves congratulations, reward ourselves for every step that we've taken along our spiritual journey or our healing journey of any kind, or any kind of career journey. We need to acknowledge and, celebrate ourselves. Celebrate that we've already achieved so much already. And that's the thing with me. I'm going through another heart awakening now. And with spiritual awakening or heart awakenings of any kind, you go through dark night of the soul. And when you're in that dark night of the soul, it's very deep. But it's very hard to see the next step. And you end up being for me personally, I was very hard on myself throughout this dark night of the soul, wishing or feeling that I needed to be at a certain place and I wasn't there yet. And I was like, I'm failing. I was failing. I thought I was actually not good enough. I thought I was stuck. I thought I was in a stagnant energy. I thought that I should have been way further ahead than I am. And I was actually being really hard on myself. In a sense, I was punishing myself for not being further along. And I couldn't get out of that dark hole for a while. And I've been through dark nights of the soul before. And they were never as bad as this. I always saw a way forward. I always knew there was a way out of the darkness. And I always kind of just kept looking ahead. But with this one especially, I was feeling very, very victim mentality. I was feeling very sorry for myself. I was punishing myself so much for not being further ahead. And this is the first dark night of the soul I've been in where I even questioned, is there any point in moving forward? Or will I just stay? Is it not easier to stay in my comfort zone? And that broke my heart. Even to say that to myself broke my heart. Because with any dark night of the soul, I know that it's a spiritual healing. I know that the light at the end of that is going to be brighter than ever. I know it's all for a higher purpose. But when I was in the depths of this one, I literally said to myself, is it not just easier to stay where I am? And that broke my heart, because obviously it's not. And I do want to move forward. And I was feeling so, so sorry for myself. And I was like, oh my God, you should be this, you should be that, you should be the other. And it was a few, I needed to get out in nature. I got out in nature and I started to have a conversation with myself. I was neglecting, talking to myself. I was neglecting, I was distracting myself, and I was, I had constant noise, so I wasn't able to actually understand why I was actually in that deep darkness. I understood I was going through an awakening, but I didn't understand why I was feeling so stagnant, why I felt like I was stuck, why I felt like my life was slowed down, why I felt like I was delayed. And that was the thing. I was like, why am I delayed? And I need to be over here. I need to have this much done. I need to do it this way. But there is no delay. That is the thing with any journey that we're on. There's no timeline, in a sense. Everyone's timeline is personal to them. And when I started my coaching career, or even when I started my spiritual journey, I set out goals for myself, and I set out timelines for these goals. And not once did any of these timelines work out. Not really, anyway. They don't, because there is no such thing as time, really. Time is irrelevant, because what we're achieving is already happening. I think past, present and future is happening simultaneously. So if I say to myself, I want this done by this certain time, and it doesn't happen, I punish myself. I'm like, I should have done this, I should have done that. But in actual fact, I've come to realise that my timeline is exactly the way it's supposed to be. So I'm not late. But one part of my journey that I've neglected is measuring how far I have actually come, how much I've already actually achieved. I think that I'm going to be happy when I achieve the end goal, and think that I'm, start punishing myself because I'm not at that end goal yet. And I'm like, I wanted this done 6 months ago, but stuff happened, stuff got in the way, but it didn't. We think that we have obstacles, but everything we go through is supposed to be part of this. And I've come to understand that I wanted something 6 months ago, but I wasn't ready. I went through a massive relapse. I allowed toxic energy into my life, and I spent the last year healing myself, nurturing myself, and coming back to myself again. Like, my health last year, like at the start of 2023, was deteriorating. I was mentally and physically unwell, and I had to make the hardest decision to walk away from family members. And a few months into my healing, I made the decision that I life coaching was my life purpose. So I made the decision to heal and take baby steps towards this purpose. But I kept forgetting to congratulate those baby steps. I was in such a bad place, and it took me a good year to heal. And like, for me to be where I am now, whilst healing simultaneously, is one of the biggest wins I've ever achieved in my whole life. But because I wanted to be over here, I wanted it all done, and I wanted this, and this, I was punishing myself for not being further along. But I actually had to sit with this, and I've had to do this a few times on my journey. But because of this last awakening I've gone through, the dark night of the soul is the darkest I have gone through in a very long time. And I had to sit with it, and I had to tell myself, like, come on, Angela, you are winning. Look at where you are now compared to where you were a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. And when we actually sit there and measure back on how far we've actually come, this will actually propel us forward quicker. Because when I'm sitting there in that depression, when I'm sitting there in that darkness, when I'm sitting there in that stuck energy, I'm wishing I was over here, I start to punish myself. All my lack mentality comes in. All my fears come back in. My fears of being good enough. I start to think I'm not worthy of the end goal. I start to think that I can't achieve greatness. I start to think that I'm not cut out for this. And then when I sat with myself last week, and I sat down and I had the conversation with myself, and I cut out all noise. I went into silence, and I said, what is keeping me in this bubble? And it was the lack of celebrating how far I've already come. We have to start giving ourselves credit for all the little wins, because these little wins are big wins. When I started healing after my relapse, we'll call it, I decided, I knew it was going to be hard, but I decided I would take baby steps forward. And I broke each baby step into milli steps, is what I call them. And I took a milli step every single day, 1 milli step per day, until I got the first step over with, and over and over and over again until I actually got to where I am now. But we need to celebrate that milli step. We need to celebrate that first step. We need to celebrate the next step, the next one, the next one, the next one. When we don't give ourselves the credit we deserve for these little wins, but they're big wins, we forget that we have the capability of, I suppose, moving forward. As I said, we feel delayed. We feel like we keep trying to rush. Rushing is getting us nowhere. And I've been guided so much over the last 2 weeks to slow the fuck down. And I mean slow down to a snail's pace. And I didn't even realize, I thought I'd slow down in my life. And I did actually think I had taken a step back, and that I was doing stuff more, calmly. But after being guided by the universe for the last week to slow down to a stop nearly, I came to realise that I've been rushing bullheaded forward once again, trying to push myself through a wall and not getting anywhere. And this was what was keeping me stagnant or stuck. And I wasn't even stuck. It was just my mind that was making me think I was stuck, because I kept trying to bullhead through this wall and nothing was happening. And I was giving out to myself going, why aren't I further along? Why aren't I through this wall? But when you sit back and you measure your wins, give yourself credit for what you've done so far, you kind of say to yourself, I can do this. I've done so much over the last few months. I've done so much over the last year. I've done so much over the last few years that I have the strength, the resilience, and the capabilities of doing absolutely anything. We get in our own way so much, and we're still trying to bullhead through and rush forward, and rushing forward will only slow you down because you will keep hitting that brick wall. When you actually pause, when you actually sit back, when you actually celebrate every little achievement you've gotten to this far, it ends up looking like a massively big achievement. And then you will sit there looking at that wall and you'll find a way over it. Or you'll find the door that's right there and just open it. You know what I mean? But we go so fast that we forget, we can't even see the door. We don't see the way forward. We just see a brick wall and we're banging our heads against it trying to get through. That's not going to work. But when we pause, take a step back, reflect on how far you've actually come, then your perception gets clearer. You actually see a way forward. You plan your steps ahead. You take the next baby steps. You take the next milli steps. And then you see the door right in front of you. And you don't have to bullhead through that wall because, and you just walk through it. And that's what I find is I was in the depths of that awakening over the last a few weeks, month. It actually feels like longer. Genuinely, I think it was only 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say, that I've been going through this heart awakening. And it actually feels like it's been about 6 months. So that's another thing, you go through the depths of an awakening and you think time is irrelevant, but you think that you're late, as I said, and you think that, oh my God, it's been years since I've been in this awakening. Well, it has, but the most recent one was only a few weeks, but I was like, oh my God, it feels like 6 months has actually gone past and I've done nothing. That's not true. And even in the depths of my awakening, I was still making those baby steps forward. I made that commitment to myself last year, in May of last year, to make the steps forward, baby steps forward, as I was healing alongside that. And I've gotten so far in the last year. I'm healthier, I'm happier, I'm more vibrant than I've ever been because I've taken those steps forward. But because I was neglecting remembering that even, or acknowledging the fact that I had taken so many steps forward, I was still punishing myself. And I was like, oh my God, everything's so slow. And I was really feeling sorry for myself. And I really was. And then I realised there's absolutely nothing to feel sorry for. Because I know when you're in the dark night of the soul, it is hard to see a way forward. It's hard to not feel sorry for yourself. It's hard for all those, all the fears come back in. And that's the thing with a heart awakening especially. Your heart is laid bare in front of you and every pain that you ever experienced is just sitting in front of you and you're seeing and feeling every little part of it again. So all your codependency, all your abandonment issues, all your lack of self-worth, all your lack of feeling good enough comes just rushing back in. And and that's why I doubted myself. I was like, why haven't I achieved this, and this? Why aren't I this further ahead? And I was like, you weren't ready. Our path isn't delayed. And we're in such a rush to get forward, but you have to understand, there was no delay. You had to go through whatever you needed to heal to up level to a stage where you could take the next steps. And that's the whole point of this journey, is that you take the steps in accordance with what is for you. Every journey is personal to you. So, a lot of the times we might compare ourselves to others and we're like, oh my God, she got this done or they got that done so quickly. Why aren't I getting this done? And then when you start to feel that little bit of comparison, a little bit of bitterness sinks in then, and that will actually delay you more. But this is stuff that you need to heal. That person who is achieving whatever they're achieving did it for their timeline. Your timeline is different. Your timeline is personalized to you. So therefore, there is no end date. It will happen as and when it's supposed to, as and when you're ready. And that's what I was forgetting. Because I wasn't celebrating and measuring my wins, I was forgetting that I wasn't delayed. You know, and I was forgetting, like, you see, when we don't celebrate ourselves, when we don't encourage ourselves along as we go through these steps, we forget how good we are, or how much we've already achieved, or how much resilience and strength we've had so far. You know, and especially when we get into the depths of a dark night of the soul or a spiritual awakening of any kind, we kind of start to punish ourselves and think that we're not good enough again, and all these fears come back in. But we have to understand we're exactly where we're supposed to be for our journey, exactly where we need to be at this moment. And anything that you wanted to do 6 months ago, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means that wasn't the right time. And you had more steps to do, more learning to do, and more growing to do to become strong enough to achieve what you wanted. So all your, like, you see, that's another thing we kind of punish ourselves for, or lose interest or lose motivation with, is that if we didn't achieve it yesterday, we kind of go, oh my God, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'll just give up. Maybe I'll just go backwards. Maybe I'll just do something else. But we have to understand, if it's something that sets your soul on fire, it doesn't matter when it happens. It will still happen if it's for you. No matter what that is, whether that's love, career, you know, your life purpose, whatever that is, if it's for you, it will align for you as and when it's supposed to. And I understand now that I couldn't have had it 6 months ago, because I was not ready. And I thought I would be, but I wasn't. I was still healing. I was still getting through my stuff. You know, and I need to be at the top of my game to be the best I can be for this world. But, you know, I can't do that if I'm still healing. And, like, you know, the things that I'm ready for now, I wasn't ready for then. And that's the thing, like, now that I'm actually coming out of this awakening again, is that I know I am ready for what I wanted 6 months ago. I'm ready for it now. And I remember how I was 6 months ago, and I was like, wow, like really, genuinely, my confidence 6 months ago was still shit. I was still in a very low vibrational energy. And I was better than I was a year ago, but I was still very low. And, like, you know, even when I compare myself to January and the steps I made in the end of January and the end of February to do with my health has transformed me so completely. And that's only a few months ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was still in quite a stagnant energy up till the end of January. And, like, all the things that I've done in the last 3-4 months has been really amazing for what it's done for my confidence and for my health and for my career and for everything else. And I'm kind of going, you know, I keep kind of going, oh my God, I should have had this much done now. It's been a year. But it's only been a year since I actually made the decision to do my healing and to walk away from toxic energy and to pursue my purpose. It was a year when I made the decision to change. But over that last year, I had to take the baby steps. So when, you know, we can go from March last year, measure that from what I felt between March and May, between May and July, all the growth that I've done in those little months to change into a better version of myself have been actually mind-blowing. And when as I said, I've been punishing myself going, I should be this much further. It's been a year, but it's only been a year since I started. But even when I look back to January, I'm like, wow, I wasn't even ready back then, and I wanted to be ready in December. The steps I've made in the January, February, March have made me so much stronger now that I am ready for the next step. You know, and I'm starting to actually feel so good in myself again to kind of go, wow, I have won. I have been winning. Every little step I've taken is a win, and we need to celebrate that because that encourages us to move forward. It motivates us to move forward. It gives us more momentum. But as I said, when we forget, when we're like punishing ourselves thinking we haven't done enough, or that we're late, or that we need to be a certain place, this makes us feel lack. This makes us feel unworthy, and this makes us delayed. As I said, we're trying to buzz through this fucking wall and it won't move. Our head is hurting and it's just slowing us down. We take that step back. We understand that our timeline is perfect for what we need it to be. We will get our goals. We will get our win, our end, for what we want, I suppose, when we're ready. But just celebrate how far you've actually come. Celebrate how much you've actually achieved. Celebrate that strength, that resilience, that confidence that you've built over the last however long you've been on this journey. Celebrate that. And remember how much you've gone through to get to where you are now. And know, because of what you've done so far, that has given you the strength to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So don't be worrying. If it hasn't happened already, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. If it's your life purpose, if it's your forever relationship, whatever it is that you want, if it's for you, it will be for you. Divine timing comes into play as well. And that's like, we think of things as obstacles or delays. That's divine intervention. Do you know, the universe steps in with maybe an obstacle, if you want to call it that, to slow us down, to make us realize that we need to learn a little bit more so that we can achieve what we want to achieve. And when you look back over your journey, it's quite beautiful as well when you actually measure the tiny little wins and actually do it like that. Because I actually had to write it down one day during my journey. Like, I've had to do this measuring over and over, and I should be doing it more often, because when I don't do it often enough, I relapse and I get into this low vibration energy and I punish myself. But I even wrote it down one day and I was like, from this to this was only 2 months. And within 2 months, I achieved so much. And then I kept going. And over the last year, I broke it down into little segments. And I was like, wow, how I felt then to how I felt then. How I felt then to how I felt then. And I remember back to my confidence the last year. I remember back to my confidence 6 months ago. And I'm like, wow, I have come so far. And so have you. You have come so far to where you were before you started your journey, before you started this new path, before you started to create the best version of yourself. Look back to then and say to yourself, wow. Give yourself that credit. Give yourself that celebration, that reward for how much you've actually achieved already. And that's the thing, you've achieved so much to get to where you are now. So celebrate that. Take that pause. Reward yourself with those little wins, which were big wins, as I keep saying, because we say, oh, they're only little wins. They're not. Every win is a win, and you've won so much over the last while since you've built your confidence on your healing journey. And I promise you, the door will appear in that wall the minute you just take a step back and look at it differently. The minute you just take a step back and go, wow, look at how far I've come. And if you've come so far, you know what I mean? If you've come this far already, after being in such a low vibrational energy for so many years, and all the times that you put that healing in, put that work in, to become this version of yourself, because we become a new version of yourself every day, every month, every year. When you actually look back on how much you have grown and how much you have transformed over the last few years, you'll realize, wow, if you can do all of that in such a low vibrational lack mentality, and now you're at this confident level, imagine what you can achieve next. Imagine the next steps. When you build your confidence up like that, when you build that momentum up within you for celebrating your wins, you can propel yourself forward so much faster than you ever could by trying to rush forward. And that's it. As I said, the last couple of weeks, the universe has slowed me down to a snail's pace. I couldn't even do videos. Like last week, I had pre-recorded shorts to do, but I couldn't do videos because I had a tooth pulled and I had to do rest. Then I had to put my dog to sleep on Sunday. So I've been, really, really had to slow down the last week. And I had to slow down to a complete snail's pace because my mind was erratic. Because of the awakening I was going through, because of the dark night of the soul, I was erratic. And I was feeling such, as I said, a stuck, stagnant energy. But I was punishing myself punished myself that I wasn't further along. And when I sat with myself out in nature and I said to myself, look, you've achieved so much. The universe is slowing you down for a reason. You're being slowed down forward. You know, as I said, we're such doers. Like, we think we have to be doing all the time so that we can get forward or be productive. Being is doing. And when we take those moments of gratitude for how far we've already come, gratitude for how much we've already achieved, that pause will open up that door instead of having just a brick wall in front of you. And that brick wall will stay a brick wall if you keep trying to rush forward and don't give yourself that time and that credit. You need to pause. Pause and celebrate. Pause and be grateful for how much you've already achieved. And I promise you, the door will open, the wall will disappear, and you will start to see your future brightly ahead of you. And I swear, things will start to come in a lot quicker. I'm seeing a lot of butterflies right now. I see signs a lot. So I see repetitive numbers, I see repetitive animals all the time. And I've often seen butterflies. That's one of my favorite. But I've seen more. It's more like often. It's more repetitive. It's consistently. It's mind-blowing how many butterflies I've seen lately. And butterflies are a sign of transformation and rebirth. We've been in a cocoon phase for so long now. It is time for us to spread our wings and to become the beautiful butterflies that we are. And we can only achieve that greatness if we measure how far we've come. If we take that pause, celebrate ourselves, this will give us the momentum that we need to move forward more quickly. This will open up the doors, the opportunities that we want to bring into our lives. I promise you, take that moment to pause and you will go forward a lot quicker than you ever thought you could. So thank you so much for listening today, and I hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you would like help in your journey, please book me for a discovery call today, and I would love nothing more than to help you on your path. Thanks again. Bye-bye.